We all like to believe we understand the rules of our world. We sleep soundly, thinking the walls of our homes protect us. But there are documented cases that defy every law of science. These aren't just campfire stories or scripts for Hollywood movies. They are the chilling accounts of ordinary people facing the impossible. Tonight, we look into 3 true paranormal events that shook the world. From the desolate roads of Texas to the foggy peaks of Scotland. Lock your doors and dim the lights. This is going to get uncomfortable. Our first story takes us back to a humid night in 1998. Imagine sitting in your car in a quiet parking lot in Abilene. You're just checking your mail or finishing a late-night errand. The world around you is silent, save for the hum of your engine. This is exactly where journalist Brian Bethel found himself that night. He had no idea his life was about to change forever. A simple knock on his window would introduce him to a legend. A legend that has since spread fear across the entire globe.
Brian was sitting in his car under the glow of a streetlight. 2 young boys approached his vehicle from the dark shadows. They looked normal at first, maybe 10 or 12 years old. They were wearing hoodies, their faces partially obscured by the night. One of the boys leaned in and asked for a simple favor. They wanted a ride home, claiming they had forgotten their money. Their voices were strangely monotone, lacking any childish warmth or emotion. Brian felt a sudden, overwhelming sense of dread wash over him.
Despite his instinct telling him to leave, Brian didn't immediately drive away. He looked closer at the boy speaking through the glass of the window. That was when he saw something that would haunt his dreams forever. The children didn't have normal eyes with pupils and white sclera. Their eyes were solid, abyssal pools of ink-black darkness from corner to corner. There was no reflection, no light, just an empty, soul-sucking void. The boy's tone shifted, becoming more insistent and strangely demanding. He kept repeating, "We can't come in unless you tell us it's okay."
The air inside the car seemed to turn freezing cold instantly. Brian noticed the electronic display on his dashboard began to flicker wildly. The children's presence felt like a physical weight pressing against the car. They weren't just kids, they felt like something ancient wearing a mask. Their demands to be let inside became more aggressive and rhythmic. Every fiber of Brian's being was screaming at him to get away. He realized that if he opened that door, he might never return. The black-eyed children stood perfectly still, staring through the glass.
With trembling hands, Brian threw the car into reverse and slammed the gas. He didn't look back until he was blocks away from the lot. When he finally checked his rear-view mirror, the parking lot was empty. There was no sign of the children, only the cold Texas wind. Since his report, hundreds of others have claimed similar terrifying encounters. People in suburbs, in forests, and even at their own front doors. Always the same request, always the same monotone voices, always those eyes. Whatever they are still out there, waiting for an invitation.
From the suburban fears of Texas, we travel across the Atlantic to the desolate, mist-shrouded peaks of the Scottish Highlands. Here lies Ben Macdhu, the second highest mountain in Britain. It is a place of breathtaking beauty and bone-chilling isolation. But climbers here speak of more than just the biting wind. They tell stories of the Am Fair Liath Moor, known in English as the Big Grey Man of Ben Macdhu, a presence that has haunted the summit for over a century.
In 1925, a respected scientist named Professor J. Norman Colley spoke out. He was a man of logic, not prone to ghost stories. He described a terrifying encounter he had 30 years prior. While walking alone near the summit, the mist suddenly rolled in. He began to hear a sound that froze the blood in his veins. For every few steps he took, he heard a heavy crunching sound. It sounded like something massive was walking directly behind him. But every time he stopped to look, the mountain was empty. The professor estimated the footsteps were 3 or 4 times his own. Panic seized him as the rhythmic thumping grew closer in the fog. He didn't see a ghost. He saw a towering gray shadow, an entity that seemed to blend perfectly into the swirling mountain mist. He ran for miles, terrified by the weight of its unseen gaze. Other climbers have reported the same soul-crushing dread in that spot. They feel an overwhelming urge to run or jump off the cliffs. Even today, seasoned mountaineers refuse to hike Ben Macdhu alone.
Our final story takes us to a quiet neighborhood in Kansas. To a residence now infamous across America as the Salliehouse. In the early 1990s, Tony and Deborah Pickman moved in. They were looking for a fresh start in a charming old home. But the house had a dark history it wasn't ready to share. It started with small things, cold spots, and strange electronic glitches. But soon, the activity took a violent and personal turn. This wasn't a haunting of shadows, but of physical pain. Tony Pickman became the primary target of an invisible, hostile force. He would be sitting in his living room when it happened. Sudden, searing pain would bloom across his back or his chest. When he lifted his shirt, deep, bloody scratches were visible. It looked like a 3-fingered claw had raked across his skin. These weren't shallow marks. They were deep, angry, and welted. Deborah watched in horror as these marks appeared in real time. No person was there, yet the physical evidence was undeniable. Paranormal investigators were called in to document the terrifying phenomena. They initially believed the spirit was a young girl named Sally, a child who had allegedly died during a botched surgery there. But as the violence escalated, their theories began to darken.
The voice recordings captured something far more sinister than a child. Growls and deep guttural threats filled the silent rooms of the house. They realized Sally was just a mask for a demonic entity, something that fed on fear and the pain it inflicted on Tony.
The physical attacks were only one part of the escalating nightmare. Tony and Deborah lived in a state of constant, suffocating dread. They described a feeling of being watched from every dark corner. Sleep became impossible as the house seemed to breathe around them. Objects would vanish and reappear in places they shouldn't be. The air in the basement felt heavy, almost impossible to inhale. Every floorboard creak felt like a footstep approaching their bed. Their sanctuary had become a psychological and physical cage. During one investigation, cameras were set up throughout the house. They wanted to capture the moment the scratches actually appeared. In a chilling sequence, Tony is seen reacting to a sudden sting. Within seconds, red welts rise up on his skin on camera. There is no one near him. No sharp objects, nothing at all. Doctors who examined the marks were left completely baffled. The scratches didn't follow the patterns of any known skin condition. They were deep, deliberate, and clearly meant to cause suffering. The breaking point came during a particularly violent night in 1994. Tony was thrown across the room by an unseen, powerful force. The scratches this time were deeper, drawing more blood than before. They realized that staying in the house was a risk to their lives. Within days, the Pickmans packed their belongings and fled. They left behind the charming home that had turned into a hellscape. But even after leaving, the memories of the Sally house lingered. The trauma of those 2 years would stay with them forever.
Today, the Sally house stands as a grim landmark in Atchison. It is frequently visited by researchers and those seeking the macabre. Many who enter report the same sensations the Pickmans experienced. Sudden drops in temperature and the feeling of invisible hands. Some still believe the spirit of a young girl is trapped there. Others are convinced that the dark entity never truly left. The house remains a chilling reminder of the unexplained, a place where the veil between worlds seems dangerously thin.
From the black-eyed children to the gray man of the peaks, these stories aren't just urban legends or campfire ghost tales. They are documented experiences from people with everything to lose. Journalists, scientists, and families who were forever changed. These events defy our understanding of the physical world. They suggest that we are not as safe as we like to believe. There are forces in this world that operate outside our laws. Forces that wait in the shadows, the fog, and the old houses. As we close these files, remember that the world is vast,
Our logic and science only cover a fraction of the truth. The next time you hear a knock at your door at midnight, or feel a presence behind you on a lonely, mist-covered path, don't be so quick to dismiss it as just your imagination. Some things are better left unquestioned and unapproached. Stay vigilant, stay safe, and always keep the lights on. Because you never know what might be watching from the dark.
These 3 stories are just the tip of the iceberg. Countless reports of the unexplained occur every single day. Have you ever experienced something that defied all logic? An encounter that left you questioning your own sanity? Share your stories in the comments below if you dare. We read every one, searching for the truth in the dark. Your experience might be the focus of our next investigation. Until then, pay close attention to the world